Zipline.
Widowing caution. Oh my god! Well played. Hey, so this is going to be a full rundown of my settings, of every aspect, why I have it that way, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you guys for 5,000 subs. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So we'll start with just the gameplay area. So interact prompt style I have as compact. I only have that as compact is because like it's where you look at the weapons and it would show like a description usually, but as compact you it doesn't show a description. It's just less clutter on my screen, and obviously I know what all the weapons are, what the weapons look like, so I understand which weapons are which. And then button hits off, it's just a preference, I just prefer it that way. Crosshair damage feedback I've always had as X. I've just kept it that way, it's just felt good for me. That's, mind you, that's dummy. It's just an X when you come up. I haven't really switched it to anything else, so that's just what's worked for me. Damage numbers both, I think this is really good. Instead of just having a floating or a stacking, both looks really good and looks really clean. Ping opacity faded, this doesn't really matter. Obituaries doesn't really matter. I have it off, but you could put it on. Minimap rotation, it doesn't, like, I just keep it off. To me, it's fairly useless, but to other people, it might be useful. Weapon auto cycle empty, I very strongly tell you or advise you, keep this setting off. It's where you switch the guns when you run out of ammo on your like primary. It's just not worth it. If you want to reload or something like that, it's just not worth it. Auto sprint I actually have on. I have that on to spam inspect my Qatar, or if I want to spam inspect my kunai, I can. That helps allow me to spam inspect. But it also just, I feel like having not auto sprint is pretty useless, because if I want to just walk, I can just slightly put my stick forward, and I can walk if I want to. So next we have auto run. I have that off. It's the same thing as sprint. I don't know. I haven't touched this. I'm pretty sure this is a new setting. Jetpack control, hold. Don't play Valkyrie. So incoming damage feedback, I suggest you put the to 2D, 3D both again, because it looks better and it looks cooler for clips. Taking damage closes death box or crafting, I have off. Make sure to keep this setting off, otherwise you'll instantly leave a box when someone damages you, so you won't be able to armor sort properly. Off-screen approaches, I haven't touched. Hop up, pop up, I haven't touched. Streamer mode, I actually have off. And the rest of this, I haven't really touched. I now have it as white. So it works best for me. In some lights it's not the best, but to me it looks the cleanest. And the laser sight I also have as white. Colorblind mode as Protonopia, that's just what works with me. I'd say you find your own preference, obviously, and these subtitles I all have off. Next, we have the button layout. This part is a very big part because a lot of people want to know and have been wanting to know for a while. So just for reference, stick layouts, just default interact reloads, tap to use and reload. And the survival slot is off, so that's like a heat shield or like an evac or something like that, if I can find one. Yeah, it's just a heat shield and evac. I just have to go into this menu and like tap it instead of being able to just tap a button for it. It just makes spinning the kunai like faster, and it makes it a lot easier. I have no dead zone on my L2 R2, and menu cursor speed is about 3/4. I feel like anything above that is too fast, but anything below isn't too bad either. But here's my button layout. I have it as customized. So jump is actually my left paddle. It comes up as X, but it is my left paddle. I use a DualSense Edge, so I have two paddles. My crouch is the right stick. I have it on hold. I've always preferred crouch on hold. And it makes movement very easy. I don't have to take my fingers off the controller at all, because I play default grip. Interact, I know it says square, but it's actually my right paddle. This works well with zips for me, and I've used this for a while now, so I work very well with it. Cycle weapon is just, or holster is just triangle, so I actually have to take my thumb off the stick for a second if I want to get my gun out, but I've used this setting for so long that I've become natural to it. But if you do want to copy my button layout, I'd say you want a time when you pull your gun out roughly where you're not having to move your stick. So you don't want to time pulling your gun out when you're in the enemy's face, because it might take a second and you're missing out on free shots. So time it as you're sliding in. So you still get the slide jump with the kunai or the holster slide jump, but you can also obviously have your gun out. That's just what I use. Aiming at sights, L2, R2, tacticals, L1, I've always left it at that. Ping, it's irrelevant. Sprint, obviously, also is irrelevant. It's my melee. I do have to take my finger off, but most of the time I'm not having to melee. And my toggle fire mode, if you don't know, is also inspect on controller. Or console, it's also inspect. So I have toggle fire mode as R1, but it's also inspect as R1, just so I can spam the kunai fast. But that's all for my button layout. Next we'll get into the actual sense. So I actually use ALCs. I don't like using this 4-3. That's what a lot of people use, and to me it's cringe. You're already on controller, so you already get aim assist, so using 4-3 just makes it a lot easier for you, which I feel like is a lot worse, and it's very slow, so it's not very good for movement either. So these are my current ALC settings, and I'll go through each setting, and I'll explain why I have it like that. So dead zone is 0%. I have that so my stick is very sensitive, so it can properly it's more the raw input than letting the stick kind of move itself. So this does make the stick a lot more sensitive, it allows me to track the enemy a lot better, especially since I incorporate a lot of movement into my gameplay. I would want to be able to track the enemy fairly fast. If I have it too slow, then I'm not able to properly track the enemy as I'm, let's say, super gliding or wall bouncing, whatever. So that's just what works for me. That's why I have dead zone as 0. Outer threshold is 6. I'm not 100% sure of what this setting actually is, but from what I can tell, it's how fast like your stick is able to move. I've had this at 6%, but I've changed it to multiple things like 10%, 15%, and even 30%. 30% looks something like this. It's a lot faster. Everything is a lot more shaky, as you guys can tell. Sorry about the lag. But everything's a lot more shaky, a lot more fast. Yeah, as you can see. So I used to use 30% for a bit, but it's just too fast for me. So I've stuck with 6% for a while, and it's worked very well. Response curve I've left as 2. You can ask pros, you can ask any content creators, even Ecstasy. He's the one that told me and, you know, advised me to switch to response curve. It's just better for proper aiming, and it's better for like the remapping for the stick input. So being able to properly track the enemy without having too much like movement of the stick on its own. So that's why I have that as 2. Optics, it's nothing really special. I just have everything as like 1.1, 1.2. No exact reason for this. This is just what has felt good for me, and I haven't touched my LCs in a very long time. Or my optics, sorry, in a very long time. So I have it as this. Now, this is the main part that a lot of people, you know, get stuck on. I play on 500, 500, 250, 250. This is max sensitivity, the fastest you can play. Obviously, you know, you don't have to play on my sensitivity. I'd say a good meet in the middle is 300, 300, as it's also very good, but a lot of people ask me how I'm able to track enemies as good as I am on max sensitivity, like with hipfire. A lot of people ask me that, and most of the time it's because of experience, but a lot of the time it's because I control my stick a bit more. So I'm having to put more of my thumb onto the stick when I'm hip firing to be able to actually control it. So if I actually want to control it properly, I do have to hold it more carefully, but the max sensitivity is good for obviously zip lines and allows me to turn around fast and do movement text very easily. ADS I have as 150, 150. I believe this is equivalent to the look sensitivity as, I believe it's ADS 5 or 6. I believe that's the equivalent. But this is just what works for me and my playstyle. It works for movement plays in particular, as you're able to track. You're not as limited to your tracking, so you're able to do large movements and be able to track the enemy still. So if I go down to 120, I'm not exactly... It's a lot harder for me to track, especially if I'm like in the middle of a movement tech or I'm like wall bouncing or something. See, I have to drag my stick. That time it takes to drag my stick, the enemy's getting free shots on me. So I just use 150. Obviously it is quite fast, so you don't have to. I'd say a good meet in the middle is like 130 or 140, but I've always used 150. The rest I have here is just 0. Obviously target compensation on, melee target compensation on, and target compensation for 0.6 or 0.4, you want it as 0.6. You don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage on console by putting your aim assist at a lower rate. I know some people say that the knocked bodies is a very annoying part of it, but that is one small disadvantage to having a huge advantage in 99% of fights. Next, we're going to move on to my video and audio, the last section of this. My video, I have my FOV is 110. Some people say 108 or 109 is good, but I've always kept it as max. It's always felt the best for me. FOV ability scaling. This is a big thing. You don't want to have this enabled. So that's basically when, let's say I enable it, and I go to Octane. It's where your screen kind of moves out when you stim. You can see how my screen does that. It's moved out. You don't want that because it just adds extra clutter to the side of your screen. See if I do it again, your screen moves out and you have those effects that are more visible. See, you can see my screen moving in slowly. It's just a distraction to your gameplay, so I have it disabled. Sprint view shake is minimal. Obviously you don't want more shakes when you're the game more shaky when you're sprinting, and the graphics mode as performance. So this is 60 FPS, this is 120. 120 obviously you want to go for, 60 is just not worth it and horrible to play on. And 120 allows you to just have better FPS and be able to track enemies more precisely. And the last thing is brightness. I have my brightness all the way up. A lot of people are surprised by this, but this is how my game looks the way it looks. I haven't actually changed it in a while, and this has been like this for a while. But this is how my game looks so vibrant and looks the way it does. Because if you put it down, I feel like it looks too much as a console player. It's like, as in a console, like console's lobby or console screen. So I use just brightness max instead. Makes my game look more vibrant and it works best for me. Next we're going to move on to audio. Master volume I just have as 100%. Open mic threshold I haven't really touched. It feels fine to me. Sound effects I have on 75. Dialogue I actually have on 0. To me dialogue's like useless. There's no point of it. It just adds extra clutter. And when you're trying to hear people walking up on you, and the audio is already horrible in this game, when you're trying to hear people walking up on you, it's hard enough. So putting the dialogue to 0 helps with that. Music obviously 0, and lobby music 0. I just have no point of these most of the time. If I'm in the lobby, I'm going to be playing my own music. And gameplay volume while spectating is just 35. I've kept it as that for a while. That's my full settings though. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys need any help or any questions, please ask me in the comments. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.